Welcome back to USA Car Reviews, where we take a closer look at some of the most iconic machines that ever rolled off the assembly line. Today, we're diving deep into a true legend, the 1970 Chevrolet Nova 454. Now, this car wasn't just a ride, it was a statement. It was Chevrolet's way of saying, if you want a compact car with insane amounts of muscle, we've got you covered. So buckle up because we're about to break down everything that made the 1970 Nova 454 one of the most memorable muscle cars of its era. Let's start with a little context. By 1970, the muscle car wars were in full swing. Dodge had the Charger and Challenger, Ford had the Mustang and Torino Cobra, Plymouth had the Road Runner, and Pontiac was killing it with the GTO. Chevrolet already had heavy hitters like the Chevelle SS 454 and the Camaro Z28, but the Nova was always a bit of a sleeper. It was small, light, and affordable. What Chevy did in 1970 was drop the monster 454 cubic inch big block V8 under the hood, instantly transforming this modest compact into a street beast. On the outside, the 1970 Nova didn't scream muscle car the way a Challenger or Chevelle might. That was part of the appeal. Its design was clean, straightforward, and almost understated. No massive wings, no wild scoops, no over-the-top styling. Just a simple two-door coupe body with sharp lines, a squared-off front grille, and minimal chrome trim. But anyone who knew cars understood that what sat beneath the hood mattered more than anything else. And with the 454 option, the Nova suddenly became one of the most feared cars on the street. Under that hood was the legendary LS 6454 big block V8, the same engine you could get in the Chevelle SS. This monster produced a factory-rated 450 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque, although anyone who drove one will tell you the real numbers were even higher. Chevy was notorious for underrating horsepower back in the day, partly to keep insurance companies from freaking out. In reality, this was one of the most powerful engines you could buy in a production car at the time. When you combined that much power with the Nova's relatively light weight, the result was staggering performance. The car could blast from 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds and run the quarter mile in the low 13s, sometimes even quicker with the right driver and a few tweaks. Those numbers put it in the same league as the Hemi Cuda and the Boss 429 Mustang, cars that cost a lot more money and carried a lot more flash. The Nova 454, on the other hand, was more of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Step inside the car, and you'll see the same no-nonsense approach. The interior was simple and functional. You had a straightforward dash layout with round gauges, a big speedometer, and optional tachometer if you checked the right boxes. The seats were bench or bucket, depending on trim, and the upholstery was vinyl. No luxury features, no fancy technology, no distractions. This car was built for one purpose: driving fast in a straight line and dominating anyone foolish enough to pull up next to you at a stoplight. One of the best things about the Nova was its accessibility. While the Chevelle SS 454 and Camaro Z28 were desirable, they were also more expensive. The Nova gave buyers a cheaper way to get the same LS6 power, making it a true bang-for-your-buck performance option. Young gearheads loved this car because it was attainable, and once you had one, it didn't take much to make it even faster. A set of headers, a hotter camshaft, maybe a better carb setup, and suddenly you had a drag strip weapon. Driving one was a raw experience. There was no power steering in many models, no fancy suspension tuning, and no electronic aids. It was just you, a huge V8, and a skinny rear tire trying to hold on to all that torque. Mash the throttle, and the rear end would break loose instantly, leaving you wrestling with the wheel while the car roared like thunder. It was a handful, but it was also exhilarating in a way modern cars can't quite replicate. Of course, with all that power, the Nova 454 wasn't exactly practical. Gas mileage was terrible, and the car demanded constant attention if you wanted it running right. But practicality was never the point. This was about freedom, rebellion, and the thrill of speed. In the golden age of muscle cars, nothing mattered more than bragging rights, and if you rolled up in a Nova 454, you had plenty of those. Today, the 1970 Nova SS 454 is an absolute collector's item. They weren't produced in massive numbers, and many that were built got thrashed on the street or the drag strip. Finding one in original condition is rare, and when you do, it comes with a serious price tag. At auctions, these cars can fetch six figures depending on condition, originality, and documentation. Resto-mod versions are also popular, with builders taking the classic Nova body and upgrading it with modern suspension, brakes, and fuel injection, while keeping that brutal big block power under the hood. But no matter how you slice it, the 1970 Chevrolet Nova 454 remains a symbol of a special time in automotive history. It represents the height of the muscle car era, when manufacturers were pushing boundaries and building cars that were more powerful than anyone realistically needed, but exactly what everyone wanted. For enthusiasts, the Nova 454 is a reminder of when performance came in raw, unfiltered form. So when you see one of these cars today, whether it's cruising down Main Street or sitting polished at a car show, take a moment to appreciate it. This isn't just an old Chevy. This is a piece of American muscle car heritage, a machine that proved you don't need flashy looks to strike fear into the competition. All you need is a massive engine, a lightweight body, and the guts to put the pedal to the floor. That's going to wrap it up for this deep dive into the 1970 Chevy Nova 454. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to USA Car Reviews, and let us know in the comments if you'd take a Nova 454 over something like a Chevelle SS or a Hemi Cuda. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with another look at the legends of the road.